Welcome to Ideagen TV, live from Miami, here with the most incredible people on the planet Earth. And I'd like to quickly go around this incredible group here, starting with you, sir.
Hey everyone, my name is Sricharan Pusala. I'm currently a research coordinator at the University of Chicago. I've worked formerly, I was the international president at HOSA Future Health Professionals, and I'm looking forward to being at the intersection of health and technology through the course of my career.
Beautiful.
Sheri Hashemi, I'm a director of engineering at L3 Harris.
Ananiadis, principal for HCI.
Sergio de Cordova, chairman of the PVBLIC Foundation.
Hello everyone, Chetana Movva, international post-secondary collegiate vice president for HOSA Future Health Professionals.
I'd like to ask you first, what is HOSTA Future Health Professionals?
Thank you for your question, George. HOSA Future Health Professionals is an international organization with over 265,000 students interested in pursuing fields in healthcare. So these are students that are passionate about entering healthcare as future health professionals, and I'm here lucky to represent them today.
You sure are. And Sergio.
PVBLIC Foundation, the foundation, it's 12 years old, focused on how we use media, data, and technology to transform our world.
Media, data, and technology to transform our world. What's an example of that?
Data hubs, working with governments and civic leaders around and understanding the power of data and sort of the provenance of data and how that could actually change policy, drive policy, and create a better tomorrow, especially as we talk about health, AI, and all the other related elements. Without the data.
So
Can't do it.
we've had a lot of conversations, and it's just stunning, startling, use the word, whatever adjective you'd like, to think about what AI has done and where we've come in such a relatively short period of time. And in speaking to the experts in this area from many of these companies present here in Miami, what's striking is that it's moving at the speed of sound, speed of light, whatever you'd like to describe it as. It's changing industries, it's changing jobs, it's changing healthcare, right? It's changing the way foundations and corporations and NGOs are all interacting. It's changing hospitality. It's changing the defense industry. It's changing so many layers, and it's changing right now. And so I'd like to ask you all, and whoever's comfortable in answering this, in this really perhaps once in a time in humanity. I mean, this is beyond what the Industrial Revolution was. We've talked about this. The Industrial Revolution took over 100 years, and it was managed. It was factories. It was all the things that went around that production. This is digital. This is transformational on a level that we can't even grasp. Even the folks working on it are trying to grasp it. And so, in this age of AI and tech, how do you adapt and harness this emerging technology, which you may not be totally familiar with? Anyone want to try to answer that?
I think first you have to make space for it. I think you have to help carve out that space to be successful with it. Give people the opportunity to get familiar, start making some processes, start playing around with it, seeing how you can incorporate it, see where the rigor comes from, see where the quality comes from. I think that's the first step, I think, is just saying, okay, here's where we're going to go do this. And then being able to then go on beyond that and expand little bits or big bits, whatever you think is going to be, the most advantageous for your problem.
Well, personally, I think the concept of learning with AI is actually a very beautiful process. I mean, as a student, I can kind of speak to that. Me and my team of researchers, we recently published some research that uses an AI protein folding software model to model this protein that has never been modeled before. And I personally was not familiar with the technology earlier before this project. So in addition to kind of learning the hard skills of using that technology to your advantage in education, you also learn the skills of problem solving. And as a student, that can be very valuable.
Anyone else? So I'd like to focus a little bit now just on the soft skills. And I think we have a powerhouse group here of people that have soft skills from younger folks, students, which is great to see because of the training that you had in HOSA Future Health Professionals, focused on the soft skills, because during these conversations, it's clear that people are still at the center of all of this. People at the moment, that may change. We'll see. Maybe. But people are still at the center, and soft skills are the differentiator, right? We've heard about inclusion. We've heard about all these other elements to this. And so why, and again, open to the group, why are soft skills so critically important in 2024 in the age of ChatGPT, AI, and everything else that's coming at us? Anyone?
I mean, I'll jump in for a second. I mean, when we look at 90 days ago, nobody knew what ChatGPT was, right? When you talk to the scientists, the intelligence community at the government level, they will tell you that where we are, they thought was going to be 7 years later, right? And I think when you look at soft skills, it's really, the most important part, as you said, in AI is actually understanding what it can do, right? When you look at, for example, Google is employing 200,000 people. Now there's a new search engine, I forget the name of it, that employs 200 people and is the number one competitor to Google minus the ads, because they don't need to pay for 200,000 people, right? So I think when you start to look at what is AI going to impact the most, it's going to impact efficiencies across companies where, unfortunately, it's not about replacing the human. It goes back to the soft skills, about educating humans how to use these tools, to improve efficiencies, like, protein or research. And I think in a healthcare space, it's probably going to be one of the most incredible opportunities for us as humans to actually discover and do things at less the cost, less the time, right? So the soft skills are key. And I think the next generation of jobs are going to be people, not only people that are doing, LLM and large language modeling, but also the people that know how to use that to create efficiency. So you do need the humans, right? And I think there's a lot that can be there. Remember, only 10% of the planet is digitized, right? And 50 or 80% of that is fake information. Right. So at this point, provenance of information, go back to the data, is key. Right. And then inputting that information, which you do need the humans. It's not an AI that's going to do that. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's government, whether it's geographic, whether it's commercial business, enterprise, private sector. So that is, there's all the private companies with zero information on, right? So there are going to be huge opportunities for the next generation wave of jobs and degrees that are going to come out that, again, 90 days ago, we didn't know would even exist.
It's just profound.
No, I think that the fear right now is replacing humans in every industry, including ours. In our industry, it's obviously the guest relations is important, the human relations is important. So the question will be how much of that is going to be replaced and how much of that is going to be liked by the user. Because at the end of the day, right now you depend on a person that can be efficient or not efficient at all to check you in. Now, if you have someone else checking you in that is just an AI related person, it may be more efficient, but I don't know if it's going to be the same person. So I think the struggle for us is not only the soft skills, it's also how that's going to impact the relationship between the user and the company. So
yeah, I mean, I think the sentiments that have been kind of shared here is something I completely agree with, especially on the health side of things. I think working in a hospital, I was having this conversation with some of the other attendees in this room, is I think you can't take out the humanity in healthcare, right? I mean, I think ultimately AI is something that's one of the biggest struggles that we're going to face is, the care teams embracing this as a tool to support, not as a competitor or as a change of autonomy, right? I mean, I think when we think of like CT scans, are there ways that we can improve the efficiency with which we can read CT scans, make it better? But ultimately, that does not change the difficult news and the task of communicating to a patient, you have disease progression and we need to consider alternative therapies. That's not something, in my opinion, I don't know if a generative language model would be at that level to do right now. And I also don't think it's something that we would prefer as humanity. So I think those soft skills integrated with a lot of the technical skill sets, technical data-driven changes that we can implement in healthcare are really what's going to drive the way that health is reformed in the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Well, I think, if you think about it, folks get concerned when the ATMs were first introduced, right? And when the CDs overtook cassettes. And when I was a kid and I had an 8-track tape, and that was overcome by the cassettes originally. So
Well, 20 years ago, when the advent of, the dot-com bubble bursting, everybody's like, oh, this is all BS, right? But what did that do? It opened the door to where we are today. And this is exactly what just happened. Yes, a lot of companies are going to go bankrupt. The next Google is going to surface. The next Microsoft, whoever that is going to surface, because we're only scratching the surface. And that's going to create the next 20 years of economic opportunities and actually inclusive of the entire planet. Again, remember, we're only operating in the world right now with only a small percentage of the intelligence.
I think to the point about the soft skills is we have soft skills because we interact.
Mhm.
You have them because you have to interact. And so by bolstering your soft skills, it's going to change your perspective or change your techniques or tactics on how you're interfacing and integrating and using. And while it might be a machine to a human, it could change, bolstering how you have it's just another interaction and how you tackle that problem. I think that's where it ends up coming from. So that we'll probably end up seeing that those who have the more refined interactions with those soft skills are going to be the next one that emerges from those who didn't do as well.
Well, and being able to ask the right question. I mean, what if you just don't have the soft skills and don't know where to begin? Or if you're seeking new folks to go into a clinical trial, AI can help you take out the bias like we're talking about and drive more individuals into these critical clinical trials and the research that are, in the healthcare arena especially, that are being done each and every day. But I think it's a profound moment, and at Ideagen, we're going to be talking a lot about this for a very long time. I think, when you hear from BJ Moore from Providence Health talk about, gosh, this is unlike anything that's ever been seen in human history, perhaps in terms of the innovation. I think that's the message out of this, is that I think people are excited and they can go into ChatGPT and students can go in and either start a term paper or get ideas or get answers. This is way beyond that. This is like that moment and kind of understanding it from now at this point. Because like you said, a few short months ago, we never thought this would be the case. This would be happening. And so it's a critical moment. Shifting to Sergio, again, last year, your PVBLIC Foundation received an award. Let me read it correctly. Development Organization of the Year. Sounds very important. For your work on something that I've been personally and professionally involved in for many years now, which is the Sustainable Development Goals, and in this case, the Data Alliance. Could you talk about this award, Sergio, and most importantly, what it means to you and to the PVBLIC Foundation?
Thank you. The work, it was really something that we didn't even know existed, or that award, and it was the countries and the folks in our community that actually submitted our name because of the work that we were doing and we are doing with the SDG Data Alliance. Is an alliance that was created 7 years ago when, really at the advent of the SDGs, where we said, where's the baseline? What are we measuring against? We have a whole new set of goals, but we don't understand where the MDGs went. Where's the data? Now we're transforming from 8 goals to 17 goals. And now governments have a framework, but do they really have a framework? They don't know how to upload the province of data. Is the information buried? And so what we do, part of our program, is we actually educate the countries. We create an educational system format and a framework on how to actually the journey of information from health, civic information, private sector information, how the government can actually look at data as a human right, as an asset class of their own government, and really protect it, preserve it, defend it, and learn about it. The most important part, really, because we spend a lot of our time with the Data Alliance, bringing leaders together. And then again, some of like what we are doing all here at Ideagen is connecting with each other, right? And creating that space for heads of geospatial data to connect with each other. And our core focus with the Alliance is really around geospatial, right? Not economic data, right? Really where the data is born, where the geospatial element is, and then really how that goes upwards from there. And, the work there that we're doing across the UN system in 193 countries, most recently we just signed a big partnership with 58 governments, 38 countries, and 20 territories to focus on building them data hubs, centers of excellence, economic models around the future of how data-driven technology, AI, quantum, but really, again, very focused on, basic educating them on the value of data and going
Value of
upward from there.
because
And that's
data is
the
gold.
future of development.
Right. And what I love about that is, Sergio, you're a great example of that. You're a great example of a leader, a communicator. Obviously, you're being recognized for that incredible work. I mean, because none of this is easy. For those millions of folks watching this on Ideagen TV, the idea that this is simple is not the case.
Oh, Sergio.
It's not simple. Ask Stephen.
Yeah, ask anyone. It's not easy work, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I firmly believe that one person can make a massive difference. And you're doing that, and it also starts at the top. And so when you set the tone, you're able to do this. Folks came together with ChatGPT. We don't have to get into all the details of ChatGPT, but we'll just say there were individuals that saw the vision, funded it, and said, let's try to make this happen. And nothing happens without people, companies, governments, public foundation,
ChatGPT was started as a nonprofit, as a foundation.
and there you go.
For
There
the
you go.
people.
For the people. And so we're at an inflection point. We have leaders sitting here. We have leaders from the defense industry. Again, hospitality. We're talking about future global leaders in healthcare. And I'd like to focus on Tim for a moment because you deserve it. You have been a global hospitality leader. I've seen your leadership. It's profound. It's not easy. By the way, hospitality is not easy. It's a people business. It's a people business, but it's important.
Yeah.
Because it's all about serving your clients and your customers. Tim, how have you taken these critical skills that you've learned, leading up your efforts in hospitality, and applied them to other aspects of your personal and professional life?
I want to say that I wanted to say that there is a critical thing about the AI compared to technology, because I'm old enough to see the progress in our hospitality industry. Technology required a huge amount of investment, a repeated investment. So it slowed down the progress, and it also put a guardrail to people being able to move ahead with the technology. AI, is going to be a cloud-based, program where at the end of the day, you will pay for it, but it won't require an investment as a technology requires right now, which is a big inhibitor in our progress, using the technology that exists. And technology that never really ends. You invest, and then 2 years later, someone comes back and says, now you got to invest again to make it happen, right? So in the end, that's what I think will make a big difference, because you won't require the investment to be able to use it and to be able to give it the opportunity to help out, whatever it needs to help out. In terms of applying my skills, from the hospitality industry to what I do now, whether it's consulting or being part of a board, it's that the critical part about being a leader is to be able to recognize strategy, to be able to help people, to be able to coach people, and to be able to understand what the customer wants, what your employee wants, what your owners want. So you're the referee basically, but you're also the person that brings people together, and try to merge the interest of whether it's the owner, the operator, the employee, and the customer. So that is that same skill that you use whether you're on a board or whether you're a consultant that is trying to get a business going. So any projects that you get involved, I found out that I have all those stakeholders that I have to bring together, because if you can't do that, the project's not going to go on.
Tim, I've seen it. I've seen your leadership, and it's profound. And so to hear from you about how the trajectory of technology to generative AI and beyond is shaping out is really insightful and so helpful for our global audience. I'd like to turn to Sheri L3 Harris. Sheri, talent identification, talent recruitment. How do you see all of this being impacted by AI? And how are you utilizing it already? What's happening?
So talent acquisition is, I think, a super critical pillar to all of the businesses. I mean, you need the right talent, you need the skilled talent, but I think one of the most key pieces for me is I need the curious talent. I need those who are curious. I need those who want to know more, and that's where I'm going from. And I had some interesting conversations over the last week, and it focused around barrier to entry. And so my goal for this year is to really take some time to break down what are some of the non-traditional barriers we might not consider. Because there's probably some really curious people on the other side of those barriers as they're, if you're meeting them as they're trying to figure out how to get past that barrier, you're already dealing with a super curious person and a problem solver and someone who's going to tackle challenges. So that's something I want to focus on this year is taking a different look at barriers to entry and figuring out how to get more curious people into the space. We're obviously everyone's looking at AI/ML. I think it's about learning where it makes the most sense, and it might not always make sense to the end solution. And so I think by having that curious element that's the center point for that talent, I think that's how you can end up really doing the most impactful, because we're all limited on resources. We're all limited on time. We're busy. It's just another thing. We've got one more thing. And so I think that curiosity to really help hone it back to that center, and then, maintaining it, like, as you were saying, finding means to help encourage the curiosity, to keep it moving and build that momentum.
So I love that, because one of my great mentors, his grandson, my mentor was very successful, Greek American, and he had a grandson who worked harder than anyone I'd ever seen. And so I said, so how are you just so motivated? Several generations now beyond the person who was so incredibly beyond his dream successful. And he said, well, my grandfather always used to ask me or tell me to ask questions. And so I find it fascinating. It seems really simple, like ask questions. So I tell our son and our kids, ask questions. They look at me like, what are you talking about? But the point is, be curious. That curiosity factor means you're learning ultimately, right? So Sheri, thank you for describing that, because it validates conversations I've had over and over with global leaders and others who are saying you need to be curious. And when it comes to AI, you should be asking the right questions. Ask the question. Get to the right question, right? So that's what we're dealing with here. So I'd like to shift to you all. Sricharan and Chetana, HOSA Future Health Professionals. In your own words, how would you say HOSA Future Health Professionals has positioned you to become the leaders that you are today?
Okay, so I think leadership is something that it's kind of when you're working in an organization and you're appointed a position by the people, you're selected. I think there's a certain sense of accountability and advocacy that kind of comes with a role, whether it's an elected position or it's something that you kind of ran for or in a company. And advocacy at the core is what leadership is to me. I think HOSA has taught me that it's about the people. That's been such a recurring theme, but I can't say it any better than that. It's for the membership that we serve, right? Keeping them at the central point of what we do and making the decisions to move the entity as an organization forward. And along the way is everybody wants a piece of the pie. So I think that really is the way to kind of leadership, in my opinion, is to buy in. You want to have buy-in from the people that you serve. You want to have buy-in from your teammates, right? I think you can build a much better house if you guarantee that there's a home for somebody in that house. Whereas that same home maybe not be as built with the same level of, conviction and commitment if it's not for you. So I think bringing people with you, whether it's your teammates or the membership that you serve or the people that you serve, I think that really is what's going to go a long way in terms of being an effective leader. And I think that's what HOSTA has really taught me, and I hope to take forward.
I love it.
So my leadership journey, your question is, I think, a really good one. And I think HOSTA personally has built me as a leader in many ways. I started HOSTA back in my freshman year of high school, and I later learned that HOSTA extends from middle school all the way to college level populations. So you can literally be, right out of elementary school at 11 years old and then extend your HOSTA career until you're 22 and graduating, which I just think is so profound. And I just want to emphasize that everyone grows as leaders in HOSTA, not only the people that are in leadership positions. And personally, for me, one of the most gratifying things about HOSTA was learning that healthcare has so many intersections with a million other fields. You can literally apply healthcare and medicine to probably any field. And what's so nice and what's so great about HOSTA is that it takes all these different students with all these different interests and passions and brings them together to ask questions. And HOSTA is driven by questions and curiosity and asking the right questions. How do we improve healthcare with the competitions we have, with the resources that HOSTA provides? And it's such a beautiful merging of topics and ideas and change-making individuals that really drives healthcare. And so for me, as a growing leader, and I'm nowhere close to being done, it's humbling to know that I'm part of this organization and honestly very, very lucky to be here. So I would say that's one of the biggest things about leadership that I've learned. There's infinite possibilities for leadership, and there's infinite possibilities to impact others. That's what I think.
And it's important to note HOSA is part of the in-school health science curriculum. It's not an after-school club. They're taught leadership skills.
Not a club.
And not a club. And it's transformative to be able to lead. What does it mean to lead? To be a servant leader, like Sergio, who's a servant leader, right? Like Tim, who's been a servant leader. Sheri, all of you are servant leaders, and that there's a methodology behind that and a mindset. And I think, again, juxtaposing that upon AI and the conversations we're having is profound when you think about it. Because even at this moment, people are vital to every organization. The relationships, the interactions, the trust, the ethics, and all the rest. And so I'd like to ask you, what is your final call to action for our global audience?
Mine? Well, I do think that being all of us, we're all people that care about people, and we care about the health of others. Let your humanity guide you in everything that you do, in the lives that you touch, and the people that you impact. Use your resources, use your money to help those that are less privileged. As a student, this is important. As an adult, this is important. As someone that is learning, this is important. The legacy you leave behind is just as important as what you do every day. So I would say that's my call to action.
Incredible.
Please be empathetic and please be a human.
I think that sort of from a final call to action is not a final beginning. Call to action is we've been having this conversation about the advent of innovation like AI that we've seen is transforming our world. It's not transforming us. It's an opportunity for us to transform our world. I think everybody's kind of sitting in the back, in the middle of the bus somewhere, just saying, okay, who's going to drive this? It's like, no, we are the drivers, right? And I think that when people are looking at it from the other side of the glass window, whatever, mirror, it's like, no, this is an opportunity for everybody. I mean, you could rapid innovate. You could, do research. I did a research about some crazy idea that I had, and I searched all the patents. And in a matter of 20 minutes, I was able to do 6 months worth of work and research that I would never have had access to. So, kind of use the tools. Right? We are over innovated, right? So the tools all exist for everybody to do it, from Antigua South Africa, Brazil, from the favelas, all you need is a phone and a brain. And I think that, we all can do something that you always hear me say. We all have an opportunity. Just do one thing. Find that one thing, that one hobby. Search it. If you want to help somebody, do it. You have thousands and millions of students that are saying, hey, I want to be part of that conversation. And they have the intelligence, the skill set, the know-how. And I think that, we have enough technology. We need more people actually taking action and doing something. So final is just pick one thing and do it.
Well said.
I agree, but I think one thing that as leaders we need to do is give a little bit of our time to our people, even if it's a 2-minute conversation, even if it's a one-to-one conversation. We're too busy a lot of times, and we don't realize that even 5 minutes of our time with one individual that works with us, it makes a big difference, and it could make it or break a situation. So that's an important part, along with everything else. And in our own world, we need to be cognizant of the needs of our people, and that personal interaction makes a big difference, because a lot of our leaders happen to be a little bit aloof of this.
Thank you.
I ask that folks work to break down those barriers of entry. You can't get a seat at the table if you don't have even access to the room.
I think for me, the biggest thing is to embrace those around us. And then specifically, we have government officials, industry reps, people who've climbed to the top in their industries. But I think innovating in the context of those around you is what's really important, right? I mean, I think we can build great technologies and tools, but in the context of who we develop it for physicians, pitch it, understand them. Is it for patients, for underserved? In their context, are we developing and moving for innovation in that direction? I think that's where, it kind of aligns along these principles of having that buy-in, having everybody all hands on deck and giving back to your people, I think is kind of the general direction that we'd all be interested in moving forward. So that's what I'd have to say.
And that's the final word. Ideagen Global, together with the Living Fuel here in Miami, 2024. Thank you all so very much.